This is the showbizradio.net review of And Then There Were None, performed by the Arlington Players in Arlington, Virginia. Mike and I saw the performance on Saturday evening, February the 2nd, 2008. This is Laura.
And this is Mike. And this was an okay show. It really didn't quite turn out the way I really thought it could have. The Arlington Players do great shows usually, and for some reason there was just something wrong with this production. There was a lot of laughter coming from the audience, which some of the lines are pretty funny, but I think some of the points there was laughter weren't supposed to be funny. So it was just something wrong.
Yes, I came away asking myself, now, was this a drama or a comedy? And I know Agatha Christie's murder mysteries are dramas, but there was just something going on in the audience that they were just howling at some stuff that really wasn't that funny. And then I did notice, I guess because this was opening weekend, I did notice a few dramatic pauses there, but they got covered up and the show did go on.
And Then There Were None is a work of detective fiction by Agatha Christie, first published in the United Kingdom in November 1939 and in the United States in 1940. It is Christie's best-selling novel with 100 million sales to date, making it the world's best-selling mystery. 10 people, each with a deadly secret, find themselves trapped on an island where they become the subjects and ultimately the victims of a cruel game based on a nursery rhyme, 10 Little Indians.
The director for And Then There Were None was Arthur Roger. In his notes in the playbill, Arthur Rogers talked about how he Americanized the story, bringing it to the East Coast to an island in Maine. Unfortunately, I don't think he totally Americanized it, and I know one of the actors, Mr. Marston, played by Russell Berry, he used the phrase a lot, this was a wizard ride and stuff like that, which we had to look up and realize, it meant excellent, but it was a British term, not an American term.
Yeah, so the wizard adjective just didn't fit for an Americanized show. Another thing that kind of jumped at us was the line in the actual poem is 5 little Indian boys going in for law, one got in chancery, and then there were 4. So what in the world is chancery? So we looked it up, and again, it's another British term for part of their court system. So I think if you're going to try to Americanize the play, you really need to do more than just the locations. They did a good job with the locations of talking about Boston and New York, things like that. But some of the other words in the show weren't converted over to American terms, and that was a distraction.
Vera Elizabeth Claythorne, Mrs. Owen's secretary, was played by Jessica Sperlongino. She did a good job. She had a very convincing scene towards the end of the play when she went upstairs to get something and screamed when she thought she was being grabbed. And then she came back down the stairs and just kind of fell apart a little bit. And I think that scene was very well acted with Blakeman Brophy, who played Philip Lombard.
Another performance I enjoyed was the character of Judge John Lawrence Wargrave, played by David Van Ormer. He was trying to be the head detective and figuring out what was going on. So he took control of the situation by questioning all the people at the hotel. Unfortunately, when he did that scene, he was facing away from the audience. His back was to us, and he was talking to the different people. So they were talking out to the audience, but when he was doing his lines, you couldn't see him at all. So that was a bit distracting and seemed like bad form as well. Later in the show, as the number of victims increased, he did a pretty good job of staying in control of himself. And in the closing moments of the show, when the murderer was revealed, he did a good job in that scene as well.
Someone who deserves an honorable mention was Omar Salah, who played Fred Narracott. He was on stage for all of 10 minutes and then had to stick around for the entire show to come out at the curtain call. He was the person that brought the luggage from the boat to the island inside for everybody, and that was his only scene.
I really liked the basic set. It was designed by Peter Finkel based on the concept by the show's director, Arthur Roger. It was a simple backdrop, and you could see through the one wall they had, through the windows and through the door, you could see the backdrop. And the lighting was very nicely done. Lighting was designed by Anne-Marie Castrino, and it actually got darker as the first scene went on, since it was becoming nighttime. So that was a nice attention to detail. One thing I think they could have done, which would have really helped with the spookiness or the mystery of the show, Since the stage at the Thomas Jefferson Center is so large, it would have been great if they had actually made the stage smaller every time the scene changed. There were 3 acts, and 2 of the acts had 2 scenes. So as the tension mounted, they could have moved the stairs, which were on stage right. They could have moved them in a little bit, and they could have moved the actual furniture a little closer together, and then pulled the curtains on the left and right in a little bit to make it a smaller area, just to make it feel more constrained and more tense with all the people not knowing what's going on, and it feels like things are creeping in on them.
At the beginning of the play, they had all the actors come out and freeze, and then the unknown voice read the 10 Little Indians poem. So you had the lights kind of up on everybody, and then as they named them off, the lights would go down on that particular person. So I thought that was an interesting touch, kind of added to the spookiness of it.
One thing that I'm not sure about is they removed the lights from the person as each line in the poem was read, but they did it in the same order as the show. So if you were really on the ball, you would kind of know what was going to happen next in the show. So I'm not sure if I like that or not, because it kind of gives a little bit away.
And Then There Were None was approximately 2 hours and 15 minutes long with 1 intermission. It is playing through Saturday, February the 16th, Fridays and Saturdays at 8 o'clock, and a Sunday matinee on the 10th at 2:30 at the Thomas Jefferson Theater in Arlington, Virginia.
If you've seen this production, we'd love to hear your comments about it. Simply leave a note here at showbizradio.net. We'd also like to invite you to join our free mailing list. Simply go to showbizradio.net/subscribe.
And now, on with the show.